Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to a fantasy romance rec and not rec video. So I had this idea just the other day because I know that we're all looking for different things in our books. Duh, right? I know, surprise. And, you know, that can lead to some debate, it can lead to good discussion, it can lead to people deciding not to follow people anymore, it can lead to snide comments, or it can lead to a great community who realizes they can have different opinions on popular books or non-popular books. You know, a novel idea. But the way that I wanted to take this is, of course, I can only bring my own personal flair to everything, and I tend to be a reviewer who I'm not really looking to analyze why things work for other people and not for me or vice versa. So that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on some books that were big wins for me and some that just totally missed the mark. I don't understand the hype. They just didn't work for me. And, you know, some of them you're going to agree with me for, and some of them you're just going to be like, wow, Jen's taste, I'm questioning it right now. And you know what? If you feel that way, that's fine. That's fine. Because the one thing you're allowed to do 100% on BookTube is decide which creators you want to watch and which ones are giving you recommendations that you actually want to go out and grab yourself, and which ones maybe you just like watching them for their winning personality, which is how I hope you feel about me. But also, we know fantasy romance is super hot right now. In my opinion, fantasy has like always been great, or always had popularity, but I feel like fantasy romance is really something that has caught fire due to TikTok, due to popularity of certain series, and then it leaves with, you know, this vacuum of like, okay, now we've read ACOTAR, now we've read JLA, now we've read, you know, Laura Thalassa, what else is there? And well, number one, the answer is there's a lot else is there. There's a lot. It also leads to, like, again, trying to find the ones that just feel like hype to you and the ones that don't. But one thing I want to put out there to, of course, not shame anyone, because there's going to be some of these that I fall into the hype for, and I am a part of the hype train, and I am hyping them up on my channel. That doesn't mean that they are, you know, gonna feel good to everyone else. That doesn't mean that other smarter, more analytical people than me wouldn't be able to pick these books apart. Some who don't find the fun in the books that I do, and that doesn't mean that their opinions are invalid, but it does mean that, like, they're their opinions, just the way that mine is mine, and mine isn't the only right one. There are already some of my viewers who've read some of these that are like, Jen, I don't get why you like it so much. I'm not getting it. But that's not the point. I don't know why I'm making all these qualifications, because that's literally the same about any books. But there's something about when we're talking about hyped books, whether you agree with the hype or whether you disagree and you're being a counter culture or counter hype voice, where people are going to come at you. And, like, that's not my point with this. My point is to give my opinion. That is literally what I get paid the, you know, medium bucks for, is to give my opinion. And those of you who are my viewers who agree with that, you trust my recommendations, you're going to go buy these. And those of you who don't, well, cool. Thanks for watching anyway. So let's go ahead and dive in. And this isn't going to be like doing all the ones I like and the ones I don't. I just wrote down, I think I have 8 of these written down, and I'm just going to pick them off of my pile, the ones that I own, and tell you if they were a hit or a miss, okay? So we'll start with the one that is, I think, where so much controversy lately has been coming from, and that is Fourth Wing, which is very shiny, so don't mind that. But for me, this book was a total surprise. I've mentioned it in multiple videos at this point, so I won't spend too much time on it in this one, but this is the book that inspired me to do this video, because there are a lot of people who are loving it, and there are just as many people who are hating it and are finding things that they're like, I don't know where we're going with this. But there is something that has me even more excited, which I gave this book 6 stars. I couldn't be more excited about it. But I was talking with my friend Jo from Not So Average Jo, who you definitely should check out. She actually has a vlog for this book coming very soon. She is hilarious and just so fun. She pointed out that this series is supposed to be 5 books. That is what Rebecca Yarros has said she's aiming for. Think of some other book series that are multiple books in them. If you were to judge the series off of only its first book, and there wasn't all these other books out, how would you feel about it? You know, like I even think of some of my favorite series, and the first books to me are the weaker ones. And they're the ones that I feel like I don't know these characters enough by now, or I'm not feeling invested in them, or the author is keeping too many secrets from me, like I don't have a good feel for anything. And then by the second, third, fourth book in the series, it's your favorite series. And when you go back to that first book again, you see that, oh, the author did lay these building bricks down. I just had no idea. And maybe you think that the bricks being laid down for this are so minuscule and that no time was taken for that at all, that you're like, I'm never going to give this author another chance. That's, again, totally your prerogative. But I look at how many times it took me to read Throne of Glass. And I'm not comparing these as like apples and oranges to, like, I'm comparing them in the fact of like, I love Throne of Glass with my whole heart and soul. Throne of Glass as a standalone book doesn't do much for me. What excites me about that book now when I reread it is the potential of everything, the seeds of things I see started that I know are going to come to fruition 4 books later, right? Now, does that mean an author shouldn't do a really good job laying things down in the first book so that we have that to build on? No, I think they should. But for me, I had enough nuggets of goodness, and yes, I had a lot of fun with this book. I know I keep saying that. I had such a blast reading this. I read it basically in one sitting, and I just couldn't wait for more. I know there are a lot of answers that I don't have, but this was never meant to be a standalone book. This wasn't even pitched to be a standalone book, and then she's like, oh, let me write more. Or a trilogy that's then going to be made into more. Like she said, I have a plan for a 5-book arc. And when I look at other series as well that are planned to have more going on, you're only going to get so much out of this first book because the author can't put it all in there. So that's just my piece on this. Besides that, I love this. This was a big win for me. I wasn't expecting it to be, and I'm very much looking forward to more. But I also caution those of you who didn't like where this was going or didn't appreciate it, think about some series you love that the first book just doesn't do it for you. You don't think there was enough said. I think this author still has a lot to show us, and I think that 10 years from now, I hope the series doesn't take 10 years to put out, but I'm just saying 10 years from now, when we're doing rereads of, is this series going to be called the Imperial series? I can't remember, but when we're doing a reread of the series, will we be like, oh, look at all the cool stuff that starts in Fourth Wing, but there's so much more that comes in Iron Flame or this or whatever? In the same way we say that about other series, where we're like, oh, it was just getting started. How many book series would you like your best friend to give up on in the first book because it doesn't hit for them, right? I would just like to put that forward. Again, it doesn't mean you have to change your opinion about Fourth Wing. I just think that we may feel differently about this first book when we've read book 5, when we see what was laid into place. Because I think there's a lot still to come. My opinion. My opinion. Now, one that I can eat my words on, well, not eat my words on, but say that I don't feel like was set up well and didn't hit for me, but I'm going to keep reading the series because I think the author could be doing more with it, is The Coven by Harper L. Woods. This was one for me that I feel like so much that was set up in this one became irrelevant by the end of the book, so I wasn't sure what we were building upon or what we were even setting up, because the game had changed so much by the end that I'm like, why did I spend all this time with these characters when a big part of this felt like a lie? Again, might feel differently when I've read more, and it's why I'm not completely writing off this series. I actually have The Cursed on my anticipated reads of July, August. I think it's coming in August, but I'm still... that doesn't change how I felt about this one. So, see why I wanted to make this video? Because even things I'm saying about Fourth Wing, where I'm like, give it a chance, wait for more. I'm about The Coven, I'm like, ugh, I didn't enjoy this one. It didn't hit for me. I didn't enjoy the way that the male character was thinking about the heroine, or how he was planning certain things out. Like, it gave me the ick. Parts about the hero in this one gave me the ick, and that won't necessarily be undone by there being more books in the series, but it's about what you connect with and what is working for you. And this one, it just felt like such a chaotic setup. But again, because as I said about Fourth Wing, I'm willing to wait and see like what comes next for that one. We'll see where it goes. Another book that I think the hype is so deserved, and in fact I wish there was even more hype for it, is Daughter of No Worlds, or the War of Lost Heart series by Christopher Broadbent. These books are very heavy and large, so I just grabbed the first one, but I will show you the beautiful underneath of A Daughter of No Worlds. I want to get all the hardcovers for this series too, but so far I just have this one. But this is a series, this is a trilogy. This is about Tisana and Max, and Tisana has been a slave for many years. She's trying to get her freedom, and things go very wrong when she tries to do that. And so she ends up taking herself to the Orders, who are an organization of magic wielders strong enough to destroy her former masters. And she also has some abilities that they want to make use of, and so they make her a deal that they will help free the slaves she wants to free if she will make her powers available to them. I loved this series so much. The audiobooks were so powerful and so well done, and I just connected with all of the characters in this series so well. This one is, I mean, it's a slow burn for the relationship, but also like the series can feel slow at certain points. But I think that Carissa really set up everything very well in each book. And each book also has a very distinct feel to it, but yet just adds to the mythos and the world building as she goes. And it made for one of the strongest and best fantasy trilogies that I've read for me. The hype was real. But it doesn't fit into the TikTok clickbait of everything you want it to feel like. And so, you know, like this is only like a 1.5 on the spice scale. And I think that for some people, they felt disappointed in the romance aspect. But this one, for me, is very heavily 50-50 fantasy and romance. But because of the type of romance that it is, I think some people feel like it's more fantasy than romance. And I don't feel that way. I absolutely do not. Max and Tisana are the heart and soul of this trilogy, and to me that means it's a fantasy romance. But again, because of the type of romance between these two and the way that a lot of it is more like, it's less shown through erotic scenarios, we'll say. But that does not lessen the impact of their love for me. All right, then we have another miss that is a super popular one. And this one made me really sad that I didn't fall into it, but I also had a feeling that it wouldn't once I got to a certain point of it. So Bewitched by Laura Thalassa, which I was lucky enough to get an arc of this book, which I'm so thankful for Bloom that they sent me. So I try to be very respectful in how I talk about it. And I don't think that the writing is horrible in this. I don't think that. But this is the case of one where this is already, like, we know this is going to be multiple books. And this one is a pretty chunky first book in a trilogy. Like, it's over 400 pages. It's like 450 pages. And I feel like we didn't get enough shared with us. You know, where in the Coven, which was a miss for me, I feel like they shoved a lot at us in a shorter amount of book where I was like, I couldn't get my feet. This one, I feel like we re-go over certain information over and over and over again, and we come to the same impasse over and over again. And then there is some revelations at the end, which I feel like most people had guessed by the time they happened. And then it was over. And I felt like by the end that I didn't know much more than I even knew at the beginning. And now I'm supposed to wait a year to get more. So this was why this one was a miss for me. Again, Laura Thalassa has so many fans, so many people who are absolutely dedicated to her. And her writing is very, like, pleasant is a way to say it. Like, it was very readable. Like, this book, I got through it pretty quickly. But again, by the end, I was just like, what's even happening here? Like, I had already guessed again like what the reveal was, and then to have a cliffhanger, I was like, you haven't given me enough. And so for this one, will I continue? Probably, but I might wait till all the books are available. So if this one's going to be 3, I might not come back to this series for a couple years because I don't want another cliffhanger again, which there will be, right? So yeah, this one sadly was a miss for me. All right, one that was a hit for me and has turned out to be like pretty controversial, which, I mean, that's fine. But I absolutely loved Anastasia by Sophie Lark. And for some reason, this one just wasn't hitting well for people. It could be the size. It could be that it is huge. And we do spend a lot of this book with Anastasia as a younger girl. We very much are establishing her family connections, her connection to magic, her connection with our hero in this book, and I can understand why for some people that is too much. But a few big things that I appreciated about this, besides it being from Sophie Lark, who I love, and besides the beautiful illustrations throughout this story, is that this book could have been split into multiple books, and we could have had, for sure, we could have had a really crazy cliffhanger in one area that would have just pissed a lot of people off, I think. So the fact that it was put all into one, I think, was the right move. That this is a standalone fantasy romance. And I know that for some people, it being about Anastasia, feeling it's like revisionist history, but what is historical fantasy? Like, that's what's happening, because we're giving AGAs to people who maybe didn't have them. But I love this. I love how Sophie tells a story, and this is one where, like, my author bias is real. I'll show it. Like, literally, I have author bias, and those of you on this channel know I don't hide author bias, but I also have been very honest about books I've felt about Sophie when they're ones I didn't love. Like, I didn't love There Is No Devil, and I didn't love The Savage, and I'm plenty open about those. But this was one for me that the feelings that I got from my childhood favorites and the way that Anastasia and her family was reimagined involving magic, but still showing, you know, instead of showing how, like, wealth corrupts, showing how, like, full access to magic could corrupt if you're not using it for the right reasons and if you're using it for selfish reasons. And I thought there was a really great message that was being told with this. But it wasn't perfect, but for me, it was the perfect story. So this is, you know, it's what works for me. That's what we're here for, is what works for Jen. But I understand why this one didn't work, but it also was, there were some people who really, really hated on this one. And I think it's because of her going from writing, like, dark romance and dark mafia romance to then writing this kind of story. Like, you're opening up to a new audience and you're opening up to people who have very strong opinions about stuff. So there you go. All right, let's look at my list here. I made a checkoff list so I wouldn't forget things. Okay, let's do the last one that was a miss for me, and then we'll talk about three more that were hits for me, I guess. So, because I didn't have too many misses on this list, because usually I DNF stuff, which this next one is one that I DNF'd, but I read 50% of this one, and also this is one that I know I'm not alone on at all, because there was a lot of ARC reviewers who have dropped out of this book. So, and this release date was actually moved, and I don't know if it was a good thing to move it. I kind of think they should have just got it out there and done it, because I think it's only going to get more awkward. So, a book that I just DNF'd and is not hitting for me is A Crown of Ivy and Glass by Claire Legrand. This is one that I received both an audio ARC, so an ALC, advanced listening copy, and an ARC for it, an advanced reading copy. And I gave this book 50%. This book is like 500 plus pages, so I read like 250 pages of this book using the audio and reading along with it. And I just, for the life of me, could not care about the heroine. And I really wanted to, because in this world, like, our heroine, all of her family has magic, and she has what is done as like a chronic illness where she's allergic to magic. So the more magic that's used around her, the sicker that she gets. And this is kind of a big shame for the family, because they're this huge, powerful, magical family, and she can't be around magic without getting sick. And then we have our love interest who gets introduced, who he really needs some information. He needs some help. And he has a power where he can basically numb her pain. And she's in constant pain because there's magic all around her. And she initially too is like so angry that he offers this help, because he's like, if you help me with my mission, I will give you release from your pain, which is basically like a drug to her, to release her from her pain. And she's so angry at this offer, because she's like, how dare you offer me some sweet relief that would relieve this pain of mine, but it wouldn't be long lasting. It would be a trick, and you would make me dependent on you, because if I ever want to be painless, I need you to help me. And the counter to that is that part of his mission involves this demon that they want to like make a deal with, and if she were able to, you know, she could get this demon to possibly remake her so that she wouldn't have this pain anymore. That is what I took out of it. There is more to it, but again, I just couldn't find it in me to care about this heroine, and I really wanted to because I found her unique in some ways. But also this one had the syndrome of getting horny at inappropriate times. Up to the 50% where I got, we hadn't had much like erotic scenes or anything. Although we definitely were leading to that happening. Like there will be open door scenes in this one. But it was that thing of like getting horny at inappropriate times that really started to bother me with her, because I'm like, there's a lot on the line. Why are you getting turned on by this guy right now? Like, why are we doing it? So when I had given myself a challenge at the beginning of this week that if I get to 50% and this isn't working, I'm going to DNF. And so that's what I did. So unfortunately, this one isn't one that I can give you my full scope of review on it, but in interest of like this video, like this one is a miss for me, and I wanted to share that because it just wasn't working. All right, now we are going back to the lovely Carissa Broadbent, and I'm talking about The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And both books 1 and 2 in the Crowns of Nyaxia are the duet that is about the Nightborn court. And so this romance between Rain and Aurea, they do have an HEA by the end of that, but we still have much more to go about in the world of Nyaxia. And I have read actually 6 Scorched Roses, which I liked, and I need to still read Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, which is like a side story to this, which I want to read. But this one is definitely the one that is more like popular for people, the one that I think got people more interested in Carissa into reading her other books, because I know my friends liked the War of Lost Hearts series better. I read that trilogy first before I tried this one, but I really enjoyed this one as well. And our heroine is the human daughter of a vampire king, and she is entering into this competition where the benefits of at the end of this competition is that she can get a wish from the goddess, so she could wish herself into being as powerful as her vampire father, because otherwise she's going to grow old and die and have to leave her father. And if she can complete this, she can win and then become his heir, and that would be, you know, that's something that she wants. But this is also in a world where, because a lot of people are immortal or long-lasting, they very much fear their children trying to take over. And so other people who are entering into this competition, like, they have had to survive against their, like, family members trying to kill them and take them out of the line of succession. And there's just a lot of, like, craziness in here. So once she's in this competition, it is, people will say it's a bit like a supernatural Hunger Games in some aspects, in the aspect that sometimes it behooves you to partner up with other people in the games. And so Aurea and Rain end up partnered together for some of the competition. And I really like how a lot of that played out. So I really liked this duet. I gave them both 5 stars, and I can't wait until she puts out more in this series, even though it won't be till next year, because she is very, very close to having her baby soon. So that's great. Then another one that works for me is the Fae Guardian series by Lana Perchek. This is book 1. This is part of the Season of the Wolf. There are the Season of the Wolf, the Season of the Vampire, the Season of the Elf, and then there will be the Season of the Raven. I think will be the 4th season. And this one, it starts off with, I love the illustrations in these, starts off with Rush, who is a Fae Guardian and a wolf shifter who was cursed with something worse than death. He was cursed with exile, and so no one can remember him or see him. And then we have our heroine, who, this book is actually kind of like a post-apocalyptic story too, and the taint in the world actually like created some of these beings, but now it's also destroying them as well. It's just a big toxic soup of stuff. Like, it's just crazy. But he discovers this woman who can see him, and he realizes this might mean she's his mate, but he's also so desperate to have his, you know, to be uncursed, that he's going to deliver her to, because humans are like an enemy, they're supposed to be outlawed. And so even though finding his mate would be a wonderful thing, he's like, I'm not going to get attached, I'm going to use her for my own aims. But of course, fate has another plan for him. So that's the first one in the series. And there are 8 books in the series out so far, and of course, like, there should be 12 by the time that it's done. Highly recommend the audiobooks for those. They're so good. The first 5 of them are on AnyPlay, which is how I listened. I like binged through the first 5, and I love those. Those were great. And then the last one I want to mention that worked for me was A Court of Blood and Bindings. This one is by Lisette Marshall, and I also read this one in the same reading vlog that I did the Coven in for my friend. I did a reading vlog with Honest Fiction, and this one was so interesting. This one has a mute hero and a heroine who gets kind of like kidnapped by him. Her whole village is supposed to be destroyed, but he actually like frees everyone in the village, and she gets taken captive by him because he realizes that she has something special about her. I don't want to spoil everything, where she might be able to help him defeat the evil queen. The evil queen who happens to be his mother, who's actually the one who cursed him to be mute and not be able to speak. And so they spend a lot of time in forced proximity in this one. They also are like fake dating because, of course, the only reason he would keep a human around would be for him to fuck her. So whenever there's other people around, they have to pretend that they're this couple, even though she definitely hates him for a good part of this book. This one definitely has enemies vibes for sure. And it isn't until, you know, much later into the story we start to find out what his real game is and what he's looking to do. And this one had a crazy, wonderful cliffhanger, which all the books in like their story is out, but I'm waiting for the audiobooks, and the next book, A God of Golden Fury, I think the audiobook comes out in just a couple weeks. I have it pre-ordered, so I'm going to continue the series. But this one was a solid 4-star book for me. I really liked it. It didn't have a ton in the romance. It was very slow burn, but since this is going to be a trilogy, I understand why it was, and it really worked for the story. Like if they had jumped into bed together too early, I would not have believed it, especially for how much the heroine is like hates him. It would not have been believable if they jumped into bed together any earlier. So I really like how it played out overall. So, all right, well, I'm going to wrap this up. So please tell me some fantasy books that worked for you and some ones who didn't. Again, please be respectful if you're talking about the ones that didn't. I didn't mean to trash anyone if they love any of the books that I meant. Remember, this is opinion only. So please remember to be respectful of others when you do that. But feel free to say which ones didn't work for you. Just, you know, don't be bitchy about it. Let's be good. So, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.